Hi, right, a little bit of a different chat. So let me first tell you what I was looking at today. I've been pondering doing a spaceship for a while, and what I mean is a sci-fi ship, but not really one that comes from a movie. So this is a box I got a while back, and it was built just exactly up to this point. So it's been sort of almost turned into a bit of a wreck. While it is a nice looking ship in the movie, and I do like the movies, I'm not particularly interested in building this into the ship as it looks here. But there is a scene in the movie, and I can't remember which one, where one of these ships has crashed in the desert, and you get to see, I'm not sure, and I don't even know if it's upside down or right way around in the desert, but you get to see sort of enough of a tail section sticking out of the sand. And that's sort of what I had planned for some back part of it, cut it off at some angle. That does leave me with something that could be done with a nose section. Give your thoughts. I generally don't throw away parts. But this, and I do have that remaining, I do have that. And you'd sort of need I think you'd need a figure to sort of bring the scale about, and the figures would be absolutely tiny. Put this into a little diorama, and I think it would look cool. I've been meaning to do that for ages. I was looking up some somewhat similar sized scratch built, kit bashed spaceship looking things, which I also want to do, that don't come from any movie. And I was looking at, those little candle LEDs. You get these little sort of fake candles with a little fake wax thing, and they've got a semi-flickering flame. So the guy takes that out and he puts them in the engines, and then you can make it look somewhat realistic. That's quite a nice idea, but this one of course will be crashed. But I would also like to do some sort of crazy looking spaceship, possibly standing on a surface. But the one thing that is sort of a consideration is, with this tail, I'd make a diorama that's really not very big, because again we get to the space issue. Where's this thing going to stand? And if I do another spaceship on a surface, and how big would the spaceship be, and how big would the diorama board be? I just don't have place to put these things. But I think it is time to do a little diorama or two. So give your thoughts on that. The back part I've sort of, I'll find some pictures from the movie setting. I don't really know what I'd do with the front, but that's another possible. It could be modified into a spaceship, but it looks too much like the Star Wars one, so you wouldn't want to make a random spaceship that comes from a Star Wars base. So anyway, there's that. Which is sort of, also just a model that has been one step short of the junk pile, but I grabbed it from the person who was going to get rid of that. I ponder this Osprey, and I haven't built a complete Osprey, and while the Osprey is quite nice looking, again we have this idea that, which I've done with this body, the mod which I have coming up, using that body on tracks, for instance, making some interesting vehicle. This particular one will be built as is because I already have the other one. Oh, and I have the leftover wing sections. Well, I've got part of that. I need to show you that again. That was the Phoenix, Flight of the Phoenix mod that I did. That's why I ended up with a leftover body. Pondering whether this would also be an interesting mod. Build it as an Osprey, or And that takes up a little bit of space. This thing is a sort of a, quite a wide and long model, but still it could hang from the ceiling. Or do you actually, the only downside of modding this into its own little ship is, does it just look too strongly like an Osprey or not? If you imagine it just now with its tail on and changing that into a spaceship, that sort of could work. Give your thoughts on that one. It's not that I dislike the Osprey, but I'm always open to doing odd and interesting things. I don't quite have an idea what I would do with the rest, but I guess some big space-looking engines. And what one could do is take this shooting star engine, which I have shown, maybe try and duplicate that and make 2 of those, or even make 4 of those. Something really, really wacky. I can't really think of anything to do with the rest of this kit though so far. I imagine that one could modify that body into something. I haven't made up my mind to abandon it completely, but I'm certainly going to steal the engine out of it. Even this armored kit, talking about sci-fi futuristic, but not necessarily a spaceship, or partially something that can hover. You take this body, which I had been planning on building as a 135th armor kit, but again, just looking at all variations, would this make a reasonable looking hover armor car, hovering armored car? Do some mods on, get rid of the wheels, or is it too sort of, it looks so much like the BTR 152 that it would be a little bit odd to change that. But on the other hand, sometimes in movies they do use something which looks a little bit like the current day version, except it was upgraded, like a motorbike that then no longer uses wheels, but it now has some new sort of hover technology built into it. So I am sort of keen to ponder a couple of those ideas. This one is maybe not the strongest of the ideas, changing this one into a ship. So far we'll keep that still as an armored vehicle. And while I have a couple of these Spitfires, and I don't dislike the Spitfire, it's just not one of my absolute best, like the Harvard. And I would, I do build many Spitfires. Well, I shouldn't say that many, but I build Spitfires, and it probably is due for another one. But here I ponder, what could I do differently? And there are a number of interesting schemes, like the Silver Spitfire. There's that Thunderbird scheme on a Mustang, which is blue and, is it blue and silver or blue and black? And do something like that on this Spitfire. I'm not really keen on doing it a wartime scheme. What do you think? Do it in the equivalent of that blue and silver or blue and black Mustang. Wouldn't be too difficult to build. Or make some other suggestions to me. One could do an interesting mod where you still actually use the roundels, but it's not that wartime scheme. Some sort of civilian scheme with roundels. Open to suggestions. And I was starting to do a little bit of work on this. Now, I have told you this one's going into a little diorama, a wrecked boat in a diorama. But I decided to just see if I could get this deck loose, and I was trying to scribe into there, but what happened was I started scribing through to the deck. This thing is just glued on too strongly, so much glue, and I am currently briefly trying to scribe the, what do you call this, the cabin off. But again, I don't think I'm going to have success in doing that. The only reason I'd like to do that is just to get all of those windows in, because that does, I mean, it can pass, but it does look a little bit like it's missing something. You know, the likelihood of a wrecked boat missing absolutely all of its windows is a bit of a push. But anyway, I don't think I can actually get this off at his, well, unless I absolutely wrench it and damage it. And then glue on all of the rest of the parts. Make a smallish diorama, so probably something that fits over it like that. Just a bit of a water setting with a bank. So right in the side of a river bank, sort of tilted over. I mean, the hole does look nice. You could do a sort of a semi upside down thing, but then you lose so much of it. I think probably you're better off doing, you know, standing at an angle where you do get to see that from the one side up against the bank, and you get to see that tilting over towards the water and, you know, halfway submerged. I think that would be quite a nice looking diorama. And I do still have this 1/24th 109 engine, or at least parts of it, for addition in some sort of sci-fi looking thing, and I've got that one that could work on a spaceship, on a spaceship that isn't at a ridiculously small scale. So I'll maybe draft some ideas. I don't want to make it a huge project. I wanted just a couple of easy things that one can slap together. This there's a couple of movies where this sort of comes to mind. I think what was that one where they're taking on aliens that are invading California or something, where I think the craft looks somewhat similar, or did they actually just use Ospreys? I have cleaned the B1 canopy, taken off those huge canopy lines, canopy frames. The result is that the canopy is quite thin looking, but it's good. It'll be smooth. It won't be a perfect flush fit into the hole where it goes, and added to that, the contours don't follow the hole that it fits into, as you sort of have seen many times with older Airfix kits. So while it'll be an improvement, it absolutely won't be the perfect canopy on that model. It's at the point where it's been sanded with 320 sandpaper. All the lines are off. I will then get it to the point where I've shined it up reasonably. There's nothing that I can really do about the fit onto the fuselage. You know, the canopy's molded as it is. I can mold another form off the canopy, but I don't think it warrants putting that much effort into that. I'm happy just building it with that canopy. I've improved the canopy in as far as the frame goes, but not in as far as fit. I can't, there's nothing I can do about that. It'll look acceptable, but you will see little gaps around it, and you don't want to fill that because the canopy clear part would need to extend further, and even if you put like Humbrol clear or the clear fix, it just won't look right. It won't be a flush continuous piece of plastic. So it'll be what it is. It'll look sort of acceptable. The new canopy lines that I put on it will improve it. Nice thin frame, but it's far from a perfect canopy. And I haven't started gluing them myself, so I will be doing that. Okay, happy modeling. Cheers.